You're watching All to Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.
Welcome to All to Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral. I'm Tubes, and that is, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. It's Joey Cole. Joey Cole, how you doing, pal?
How you doing, geezer? Lovely to see you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Listen, mate, I'm going to say it again. This is your opportunity. You're coming off the bench now for Big Tom Davis, who's filming his masterpiece still, and you've got to make an impact. I want Parkinson-like questions, probing, everything. I want you to light up the studio. This is your time.
Right, I won't let you down, Gaffer, I promise. But let's talk about today's show, mate. We're going to discuss whether Gareth Bale and Wales will make it to the World Cup, and also how not to get relegated.
We got the main man for that.
Absolutely. Should we get him out?
Let's get him out.
With over 1,000 games in English football across all four divisions, and he's never, ever been relegated. It's Tony Pulis. Tone, how are we doing?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lovely day down here on the south coast, and it's nice speaking to you.
Absolutely. Are you missing management?
At the moment, no. I think it's been difficult. I think the managers, having had that short spell at Sheffield Wednesday, without crowds, without the atmosphere, with all the regulations that you have to abide to, it's really difficult. And I've got great respect for the managers, the players, and the people at football clubs who have done a wonderful job over that period of time to keep the game going, to keep the entertainment going, which has been important for the public in this country. And it's different, and something that I experienced over a short period of time at Sheffield Wednesday. I experienced it, and it is completely different to the norm.
What did you find, Tony? When you was having to motivate the players, what did you do differently? Did you change your management style when there was no crowds in there?
My first game was at Norwich, and you've been to Norwich, Joe. You're right close to the crowd, and the dugout is almost you're sitting next to the first row, or you're standing up, to the next row, and you always get one or two Herberts giving you a little bit of stick and a little bit of banter. And it's part of the game. And then I walk out. You get so wrapped up in it. You walk out, and then there's an empty stadium. I think we had 2,000 people. I think it was the one game that they allowed some people in, but there's only 2,000 people there. And Carroll Road's got a wonderful atmosphere. So it's a fantastic football club, and their season ticket holders, the way they sell their club, is fabulous. And to walk out and not have those Herberts behind me giving me some stick, you're looking around thinking, where are they? Where's the banter going to come from today?
Tom, the word Herbert, right?
Yeah.
Right, so Martin Patterson, my pal, you coach.
Yeah.
All right, so that word lives on in my friends because of you, right? Because playing with Pato, I've not heard the word. I wasn't something that was used in London, you little Herbert. And I was playing with Pato, who Tony used to call him the Herbert, right, at Stoke, right? And we're playing, and this centre half smashed him, and I'm on the pitch, and he's gone to the guy, oi, watch yourself, you're only a little Herbert. And I've just got the giggles because this American kid's gone, what are you doing? And then for 2 years, I where'd you get that from? He went, well, Tony used to call me a Herbert when he was coaching me.
Well, it
lives on. Bring that word back. I love it.
The great story with Pato. I gave Pato his debut. He's most probably told you, Joe.
Yeah.
He was a big Stokey. He's a great lad, enthusiastic, run all day. Technically at times was a bit erratic, but would score goals, and his energy and his pace and his willingness to work was absolutely fantastic. I think we were playing Leeds away from home, and I'd worked with the team on the Thursday, and I'd told him, that he had a really, really good chance of playing, either starting or coming on and sub. And the next day he came in, and I don't know if he's ever told you this, and he dyed his hair red and white. You know, I'm one of those managers who don't want anybody to be different in the team. Always wanted the team came first. It was not, I didn't want any focus on one individual. And I pulled him. He was a young kid. He's 16, 17 years of age, whatever he was. And I said, Pato, get home and get your hair cut. Get that out of your head.
You bloody Herbert.
Otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, you ain't playing. And that's most probably why, from that point onwards, he became one of the Herberts.
Yeah,
but
that's it.
Joe, he's a wonderful lad, and he's obviously got a good career over there. Or made himself into a good coach, good player, good coach now. Anthony tells me, and he loves his football, Joe.
Oh yeah,
loves his football.
Listen, he takes a lot from you, Tony. We talked a lot about coaching because we was on the coaching staff together at the end at Tampa, and he learnt a lot from you, and he. I'll tell you one story. I don't know how much this he says. When he said he was there the day that you discovered Rory Delap could throw the ball.
Yeah,
was that right? He said he's never seen a man so excited in his life.
I can remember it, but they were. I think they were. A lot of the lads were throwing it overhand, and there was a competition who could get it past the far post overhand, one hand, just picking it up and throwing it. And all of a sudden, Delap comes from nowhere and throws it about 20 yards past the far post. And I'm looking at Kempy and I've gone, where's that come from? And
did no one know at all? Did no one have any inkling?
No. You speak to Harry. Harry had Rory. He didn't even know he could do it. And I just pulled him and just said, Rory, where have you got that from? And he said, I was county champion in javelin. And he's got something to do with his shoulders, a loose or whatever, and he can get that. He could get that, that balance where you could throw it flat as you possibly could, and as long as he could. And it was a fantastic weapon for us. Absolutely fabulous, fabulous.
Tony, you mentioned Bournemouth there in the previous conversation, and that's where you finished your playing career, wasn't it? And you played under Harry Redknapp.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Harry was a fantastic coach. People talk about Harry. When I first met Age, when I first went into Bournemouth, Harry would put coaching sessions on, and they were always, obviously been very fortunate to work at West Ham with John Lyle and Ron Greenwood, who were two top English coaches. And he would talk and put on little drills, crossing and finishing drills, pass and moving drills that I hadn't seen before, and which, excited me. I thought H was a real top coach. As he's gone on in it, or as he went on in his management, and obviously still being in touch with Harry. I think when he left Bournemouth and went to West Ham, and then he worked with the top players, I think those top players could work. Well, Joe's worked with him. Those top players could work the problems out without Harry having to tell them. Whereas with us at the time, when we won the league, won the third division championship. The first year I was at Bournemouth with H, he would, he'd work with the team, he'd work with the group, he'd work with us individually, and was very, very good coach.
And every single footballer I speak to, they always have a Harry Redknapp story.
I've got millions of them, but I can't tell you, Pete.
You can. Tony Pulis, what's your Harry Redknapp story?
Yeah, of course. I'll tell you what. I actually went to Gillingham, then came back to Bournemouth with Harry, and then became first team coach. And we used to drive up the motorway. We'd go up. He'd say, "Right, we're going off to a game on. We'd go and watch Millwall reserves on a Monday afternoon. We'd train at 10 o'clock, jump in a car, get up to Millwall for 2 o'clock, watch a game there, and then go back across the Stamford Bridge and watch Chelsea in the evening. So we'd watch the game o'clock and a game. This is when videos weren't about. This is where managers had to get out on the road, and we would." And I'm talking about everybody at that period. The way you would find out about teams or players, you'd have to get in your car and drive and watch them. The amount of work that we did without obviously the stuff that they've got today. So we'd go up and I'd have a little game of H, and we used to have those. What were the directories called? With all the football stats in, all the football players, every team. But the big books.
Oh, right. Well, they're Rothmans.
The Rothman books,
Yeah.
football books. And H would always have one in the car. And he'd say, pick the book up, pick a name, and I'll tell you the team. And he'd do it. And he wouldn't, he knew, honestly, Joe, he taught me, what he taught me was the product in my industry, which I went on to play, or went on to become a manager. The product, the most important product is players. And if you know players and you know where they are and you can get them, then you'll be successful. And he taught me how to very well. I was still coaching then. I was still working as a first team coach with him. He was absolutely fantastic. And, you know, H has gone on to obviously manage in the Premier League, and he's gone on and done that thing in the jungle. You know, he's Mr. Jungle or wherever he is. And he's gone and done this and gone and done that. But every time I speak to him, and I bumped into him a couple of days ago down the front, he was walking his dog down there, and we had a good chat. Well, we always have 20 minutes, 30 minutes chat whenever we bump into one another. I always say to him, you know, over 1,000 games, I think H managed. He took Tottenham to a semi-final European Cup. The great team he had at Tottenham. You know, they finished in the top 4. Everybody talks about him being the jungle man now. No, not Joe. Nobody talks about him.
I know.
With his football. And Harry's football nuts. You know, he still sits, and if there's a game on in the afternoon or early evening, he'll watch that one, and he'll watch the next one, then he'll watch the third one. You know, he's an absolute football nut. But if you speak to people, Joe, there's so many people now outside who see Harry as something else than what he is. For us, you work with him. Yeah, he's absolute football crazy.
I'm glad you said that, Tony, because like people see Harry and they you know, people say, but you know, he hates it like Wheeler did. They didn't see all them years where where he was grafting. You can't get to the top in your game like you was and like Harry was without putting the graft in, like getting in the car. It's a bit different now. Graft is a bit different. He might be watching videos, but like he's such a football man. You know, like you said, knew every single player in the book. Like that's so important, and that's why with myself, when I'm thinking about going into management, what I will do, but not until I'm ready to dedicate my whole life to it. My kids are young at the moment.
This is God's honest. We'd go up north on a Friday, and Tranmere Rovers used to always play Friday night. And if we travelled up anywhere near their ground, and I mean within an hour on a Friday night, he would not have dinner with the players. He'd grab me, and we'd go across and watch a game. We'd go and watch Tranmere. Wow. And he'd watch that game, and then we'd come back and he'd order something for us to eat when we got back after the game. And then obviously he had the game the following day. You know, he's been managing Bournemouth. So he taught me a wonderful, wonderful lesson about, you know, what's needed. And it's Joe, it is a relentless job. And it's a job that you have to go into and understand and recognise that if you're going to be successful, you know, you have to, well, I think it's less now because there's so many video analysis and, you know, videos of games and this, that and the other. You have to really, really, or we had to really get out there and put the hours in. Do
you think, this is me just asking, this is like an interview for me now. Do you think now, like you said, with all the staff you would have, even at somewhere like Sheffield Wednesday or Stoke, staff crew, and you've got scouts, you think it's more about your relationships with the people, your coaching staff and your recruitment staff and your directors? Is it more that rather than you doing it all yourself?
Well, there's a massive there's been a massive change over the period that I've managed in, and one of the big changes, and one of the changes that people haven't recognised yet, Joe, is the amount of people between a manager now and the owner. And I think if you're going into football now as a manager, I would, especially at the top level, whether it's the Championship or the Premier League, I would, instead of having maybe 2 coaches with you or 3 coaches with you, I'd actually have a sporting director that came in with me and left with me. And that sporting director would work above me and work in line with the club sporting director, would work in line with the chief executive, would work in line with the chairman. So when things are not going so well, and I've been there, you know, when things are not going so well, you don't need the chairman telling you or asking questions or telling you what's you know, what's going on and what's not going on. What you need is someone there to protect you and to put your point of view over. I think Frank at Chelsea, Frank Lampard, is so unfortunate that with what they did. You know, everybody's on about the new manager now. Frank put that group of players together. Yes, there might have been a sticky patch, but Joe, there was always going to be a sticky patch. You can't bring as many foreign players in to a football club and think they're going to, and I know they had a good start, which most probably hindered him a little bit as well, but they were going to be up and down a bit. From my point of view, there were some really good players that Frank had signed, but there was going to be an up and down period, and he needed someone to sit down with the people above him and say, listen, he's going to get this right. They're bumping at the moment, but he's going to get it right. There's going to be a period of uncertainty. Now stick with him, because he's the right man for the job. And I don't think managers have that now. You know, you look at what happened with Chris at Sheffield United and other people. Now, they're sporting directors at football clubs who are good people. But when you get the sack, they stay there. You're walking out of the door, they're tapping the next man on the back. I'm not sure that's right. I think that if you go into a football club now, you get your own sporting director that goes in and comes out with you. And that person knows if you're getting it, he's getting it. So we will work his socks off upstairs above you to manage that area.
Absolutely. And Tony, we've got to talk about Stoke. You were there for 10 years over 2 different spells.
Yes.
How much did you love it there?
The chairman, Peter Coates, and the family, Denise, John, you know, Peter's wife, Deirdre, they're just absolutely wonderful people. He understood me more than anyone else. He understood that I was very single-minded, very determined, very set in my ways. And he went away, you know, he went along with it. And if I stepped out the line, he was there to correct me, and he corrected me in a proper manner. And in the end, and I've said this before, I lost my father very, very early on. Peter was almost like a father figure to me. And he would talk to me. He'd be the closest that anybody would speak to me and correct me, you know, next to my dad. And he'd do it in a really good way, and a really good way. And a number of times, you know, he would say, come on, let's go out for a bite to eat. And we'd go out, he'd get me a few drinks, he'd settle me down, and then he'd tell me the club's view. Then he would explain what they were trying to do. Then he would do this. And, you know, he was just, you know, like I say, he was just a wonderful, and he's a wonderful, wonderful man. And, you know, I know John's got more responsibility, but John, again, the Coates family, I've got nothing but admiration for them. And hopefully one day they'll get back in the Premier League.
Cool. And Joe, you used to love playing against Stoke, didn't you, mate?
Well, we had Big Hoofy on. My pal. And I used to say to him, like, lining up against your team, it was like Jurassic Park, Tony. Like, they were huge. I've been looking up at them, and like, they'd just be like, right, there he is, the fullback, 6'4". Yeah, there's the other one, look, 6 feet. Such a fit, and it was like, it's a compliment to play for. I definitely didn't score a goal at Stoke. I don't think I had a good game when I played at Stoke ever. They done a great, like, just stopping you playing was the best that the Premier League's seen. And that's an art form, by the way, which we don't see a lot. Defending, the art of defending, I feel it's not. Yeah. You know, there's more goals. I love football now. I love the way it's played, and I would thrive in this way it's playing. But Tony's teams were so organised, so resolute, and just they were giants. They were men. You must have had like a mandate or a.
No, did you only sign beefcakes?
No, hey, we had Pennant and Etherington playing wide.
You had quality. Yeah. Would you say that was your best side, that one, with Pennant and Everton on either side? Because you had
at Stoke. We've had a question of a doubt. I think that Matty Phillips and Chadley at West Brom were good when we finished 10th. Yeah. And really should have finished 8th that season. We lost the last couple of games, and we were winning at Swansea with only 5 minutes to go, and Swansea scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes. If we'd have drawn, I think we would have been 8th, or if if we'd have won, obviously we'd have finished 8th. That was a good team. But the Stoke, when I took over at Stoke, when we got promoted, I'd rung Fergie up and I'd rung Steve Coppell up. And I spoke to Alex, and Alex said, listen, you ain't going to win a lot of games away from home in the Premier League. I've looked at what you've got and what you'll have. He told me quite a few things, actually, but he said, you've got to make the Britannia a fortress. And you've got to do things that teams are not going to be comfortable with. One of the other great things he said as well, if any of the top 6 teams ever give you compliments, you're not doing it in the right way. Yeah. Because you've got to get them to despise you and despise the way you play. And we actually, we turned it round and made it the area against the rest. So we got the crowd on side, Joe. So we said, listen, everybody is against Stoke-on-Trent. It's not just Stoke City Football Club, it's Stoke-on-Trent. And then all of a sudden, they'd turn up on a Saturday. And, you know, the way the crowd got behind the team was just extraordinary. You know, I can remember games. I can remember playing Man City and beating Man City 1-0 with 10 men. James Beattie scored from a cross just before half-time. Andy Wilkinson had been sent off just before James had scored the goal. And that second half, you know, people said, oh, you did brilliant. How could you do that with 10 men against Man City? I said, no, it's 30,000 against 11 men. Yeah. You know, every challenge, every tackle, every pass that team made that day, you know, the crowd was just extraordinary. And they stayed with us, Joe. And going there, you know, we built up this reputation, as you said. But behind the scenes, Uthi will tell you, we were a decent team. Yeah, we had some good players, but we never, ever, ever, ever talked about anything else but being big, strong, horrible to play against, set plays, and psychologically, I can remember talking to Patrick Vieira at a coaching course. Patrick came. I did a coaching session that Patrick was on, and he waited afterwards to have a chat with me. He's a lovely. I found him to be a lovely fella. And he said to me, you know, Wenger was absolutely psychologically struck in going to the Britannia. The long throw, amazing. He always thought the grass was too long, the pitch was too narrow. You know, he moaned and groaned like a drain. But when we went to the Emirates, the pitch was the biggest pitch in the league. The grass was cut like a bowling green, watered before, which suited his team. So why moan about going to the Britannia when we're doing everything that suits us? And he said to us, he said, I can remember one game we're playing you, and he worked for the first time ever on defending long throws. And he said, we turned up and Rory Delap was on the bench. And he said, and you beat us 3-1. So he said, it was just psychologically, you know, Arsene had found it difficult coming to the Britannia. Do you think, Tony, with the new rule changes and the way football's evolved now, do you think if you got a job in the Prem now, would you look to do the same style, or would you? It would depend what group of players you inherited. Yeah, I think there's been a real sea change, obviously, in the change of the rules and everything else. And I think the biggest change for me is that, you know, people want, you know, to play around the goalkeeper. And I think if I went into the Premier, I'd definitely press high. You know, I've always been one of them that's been, you know, we stay back and we stay nice and compact and we stay nice and solid. I think with the change of the rules and the way people want to play, I'd definitely press higher. And when we got the ball, I'd play through the pitch quickly. Yeah. I think if you look at the defending sometimes in games, and some of the goals that are scored is poor. And I think the reason being is because the games are so stretched now. Yeah. And if you look at Leeds, I think Leeds do it fabulous. I think they play through the pitch. People don't understand and recognise. And this was a big thing with Liverpool's success as well. If you have a look at Liverpool's success, I think Liverpool hit more long diagonal passes within the Championship or winning the Premier title than any other team in the Premiership that year. And I think Leeds, if you watch Leeds with 2 or 3 passes, they'll be through you. They don't play backward, sideward, square. Back to the goalkeeper, backward, sideward, square. Leeds either try and outnumber you on one side of the pitch, or they'll have someone stood out right on the touchline on the other side, and they go bang,
Yeah.
and then he runs down the pitch and they fill the goal and they get crosses in. They're technically very, very good, but they play to a purpose and they play through the pitch. I love watching them. There's and I've got to be honest, I've watched Burnley. I think what Sean's done at Burnley, they play more football than what they get credit for.
Yeah.
I think Chris at Sheffield United, I know it's not going well for Sheffield United this year, but last year I thought the football Sheffield United played was fantastic. And again, Joe, they're supposed to be a big, strong, British-type team. They played through the pitch, and they played quickly through the pitch, and created opportunities and chances. Now, there's more than... I get really annoyed when people get stereotyped and say this is the only way we can do it. The Premier League is the best league in the world because it's got variation, it's got different styles, it's got different types, and we've got to keep that. We've got to keep that going. It's tribal. Clubs are tribal, and football can be. We don't want it to be stained with just one way. Man City are fabulous. They've got the best players. I think Pep is just enlightened everybody. Obviously Klopp has been fabulous. Those clubs, but they've got the best players, Joe.
Yeah,
they've got the best players. Some of the best players in the world. They've got 7 or 8 top players, top world players, and they can do stuff that other teams can't do. But when you haven't got that strength, you've got to find a way of winning, and you've got to find a way of playing that will get you to win games. As I've done at all the clubs I've managed, I've tried to play to the strengths that my teams have had.
Yeah.
And at all those clubs you've managed, you've always been on the sideline wearing a cap. Yeah. What is the story behind the cap?
I think it was the year that we actually won the league when I was at Gillingham. When we that first year I was at Gillingham, I think I wore the cap a few times. And then it becomes, Joe will tell you what footballers are like, what managers are like. It just became superstitious. And superstition as much as anything else. And then I started losing my hair, and it started, playing up north, it was a bit cold. So I thought I'd keep the cap on, it keeps you nice and warm. But no, and I didn't want to get sunburned as I've done today. But it was superstition more than anything else.
Because Joe, you had a mad superstition, didn't you? I love this superstition that. Well, you can tell.
Remind me, I've had a few.
Yeah. you wouldn't touch the ball, would you? In the changing room before.
That's right. Yeah. Same thing. Probably a success. And I would usually go and get the ball and just play with the ball all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't touch the ball once because we won, I scored or whatever. Right, I'm never touching the ball again in the change room. And went on a run. And my mistake was telling the lads about I don't touch the ball. So I'd be there and it'd be like a game of dodgeball. There'd be fucking balls flying at me like JT and Singh went at me and I'd just bend out the way. And I used to go mad if one of them threw a ball at me and hit my ankle. Put me at my head. But then I had to get rid of it after that because it was just like the lads were just throwing balls I had to stop it. I've had some weird ones.
What's the maddest superstition you've seen in football? Because that's up there. To both of you, that is.
No, Jay, just so it's JT. He used to only have 5 potatoes on his pre-match meal, right? And if he was hungry, he'd have to look for the biggest ones, right? He's moving. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, get out of the way. I will get my dinner. And he'd be like, no, I've got to get the big ones. I'm only allowed to have 5. I was like footballers, we're just a weird bunch. We're a weird bunch.
Just a weird
I can see it raging. If we had them little Daffin-Noir ones, were the tiny ones, he was gutted. He just had 5 of them. They're like that big.
Well, so he wouldn't go for a cheeky 6?
No, 6, 5. That was
5.
It. Yeah, and he'd hunt the whole pan for the biggest ones. I don't know how this lasted, but it was definitely a thing at some point. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're a weird bunch, Tubes. We're a weird bunch.
Yeah. What about you, Tony? What's the weirdest one you've seen?
I've had obviously suits, ties, and everything else. The one I had at Stoke for one season, driving in, I used to live just outside, and it was magpies, and it had to be even numbers. And if honestly, it had to be even. I'd actually go round a roundabout twice to try and even it up before I got to the game. And honestly, Joe, we went to the cup final in 2011. and I'm in the bus at the front of the bus, and I'm frightened to death to look out the window just in case I see a magpie. And if I seen one, then I'd be absolutely solid looking out of that window, hoping and praying that another one had come past, or I'd see one in the tree, just to make it an even number. But yeah.
Well, that's it. If I'm ever managing in the
We
dugout
got beat by
you,
Man City that day, so that magpie one went out of the window.
Those bloody men. Yeah.
I'll be like that. I'll be how many magpies if I'm managing against Tony? How many magpies you see today, Tony? 2.
No,
Here's another one. I'll have the kit man with one there. Number 3. You're done.
I've never told anyone about, it's crazy, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Crazy. But I've seen exactly the same as you. I've seen people have so many different superstitions and get very, very annoyed, if they were broken. Yeah, crazy bunch.
I've got one for you. I just remembered one. Stuart Pearce, right? He was the best professional when I was coming through at West Ham. And he had before the days of phones and timers, he had like a cooking timer, an egg timer. And he'd set this thing, like it'd be like 10 minutes stretching. It'll ping. 8 minutes massage, whatever, ping, and it'd get right the way up till 2 when we're about to go out, right? And Johnny Moncur had got this egg timer, and every time Piercy turned away, he'd put it forward a couple of minutes. So by the time he'd done this routine, so it's about 2:05. We're not warming till going out till 2:25. Monksy's done his egg timer, and his thing goes. And he's looking around raging at everyone for not being ready. He's like, come on, let's go. Gav's gone, Piercy, we're not going out for 20 minutes. And he just lost the plot.
I was going to say, you don't wind him up, do you?
He thought it was Stephen Bywater because he was a joker. He said, you messing around with my... I didn't touch your egg timer, mate. And it just went... No one spoke till the game like that. Oh, mate, he was a intense character, Piercy.
Absolutely love it. And also, Tony, on this show, we have a thing called What Really Happened, where people sort of let us know what they want us to ask you about your career. And it was quite an easy one, this one. 4 words: James Beattie, naked, fight.
No comments.
Robert Hoover's on the other week. He's told us all about it. We want to hear your account.
I'll leave it to other people to talk about that.
Do you know what that tells me? If you're going to rob a bank with Tony Pulis.
Yeah.
He's not snitching.
He ain't grassing. No.
Love him. He ain't a Bertie Smalls.
If he's in prison and he sees an absolute shanking, he ain't saying anything, is he? He's just he's keeping stum.
Nah, if he sees a shank Rijkaard, that's it. Yeah. We've got the story.
How was Hoofy anyway? Was he okay?
He was brilliant, mate. He was brilliant. He's doing his his qualification to be a sporting director of some description. He's back in Germany, but he's good.
Oh, was he? Oh, good.
Yeah. He's back in Germany, in Berlin with the family, and he's on good form. He's on good form. Yeah.
Him and Ryan were absolutely outstanding for us. Yeah, we had Begovic and those two centre halves. Begovic had a great period at Stoke. Great goalkeeper. Thomas Sorensen was very, very good for us, and then Asmir came in and took over the reins, and him, Roberts, and Ryan were excellent. They were a tremendous base.
Tony, this is what question I want to ask you. Talk about characters. So when I started in '99 to what's it now, 2021, right? So your Shawcross and your Hoofs and your players of that ilk, who are happy to do their job, head the ball, defend. You motivate them a certain way. But with the academy system, which we've both said is producing talents around, but it's not producing that type of character which you based your whole team around. So if you went back in, would that be something for you to think about in terms of what type where are you going to find them, basically?
I always, and especially at the start, I always wanted character. Yeah. I always wanted people that you could rely on. So when they passed you in the corridor going out on the football pitch, you knew they were good people, they were good characters, and they do the best they possibly could for you. And, that was important. Our training sessions at the clubs I've been at, and the period I had at Stoke, the 4 years I had at Gillingham was brilliant. People did things properly. And you know, at Stoke, players had sort things out. You know, if we were doing, I can remember signing a player, and Glenn Whelan, we were playing, and Glenn missed the ball out to him, and he shook his head and put his hands up in the air. And within 30 seconds, we've got to pull, you know, trying to pull Glenn off him.
Yeah.
You know, Glenn was going to kill him, and he said to the kid, you know, that doesn't happen at this football club. If we make a mistake, someone else helps us. We don't moan and groan. We don't throw our hands up in the air.
Yeah.
This team is a team, and that was what you had, Joe. You built up a tremendous togetherness. You know, I think I've told the story. You know, at the end, you know, the last couple of years at Stoke, we couldn't get the players out of Crouchy will tell you, you couldn't get the players out of the canteen.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go into the canteen at 2:30, and the lads would still be there chatting away and having a cup of coffee. And I used to say to them, "Have you not got a home to go to, you lot? Why, you know, get on, get out of it." But they enjoyed their company, you know, and the team was so close together. It was wonderful. It was, you know, we had our moments, we had problems, you know, with competitive people. You'd have little bust-ups on the training ground and this, that, and the other. But they were so together and so committed. And I think if you look at all the teams that I've had success at, you'd always have people in there with good characters. Never mind just good players, Joe, but good, strong characters who you knew when the going got a little bit tough, whether it was recovering from a couple of defeats or whether, you know, you were under the cosh during games. Those lads just stick their chest out and do the best they possibly could for you.
But the players absolutely loved you because you were so honest with them. You know, if they were having a nightmare, you would tell them you're having a nightmare. Is that something you always done throughout your career, sort of thing? Were you always
well,
bang?
I think I've always tried to be straight with people. I've always tried to be honest with people, irrespective. And I've always had this golden rule that the dressing rooms have people, you know, who they perceive to be the main people, the main players, and they would be the ones maybe at times that I'd go after, and I'd always go after them, thinking, well, if I dig him out and I have a right go at him, the ones who might think they're a little bit below him are looking at one another, going, "Oh my God, if he's going to do that to him, if I step out of the line, what's he going to do to me?" Yeah. So, you know, I had that thing in my mind that it was very, very important that and Joe will tell you, there are players in the dressing room. They're the leaders. They're the people that, you know, other players, you know, gyrate to. They were the ones at times that I would go after, and I did it for a reason, in making sure that everybody knew, irrespective of who you were, what your name was, what your personality was. If you were going to step out of line, you were going to get it, because we were a team, irrespective of who you were. You know, I had my favourites. You know, the lads used to cane one or two. Matty Etherington was someone I always looked.
I know Matty,
I always looked after Matty. Matty was a great lad. I was a big fan of Matty Etherington's. So I'd protect Matty and look after him. And there'd be others that I'd give stick to, and they'd look at me and think, "Oh, blimey, if it was Matty get away with it." And they used to call him, you know, the gaffer's favourite, and, you know, he can't do nothing wrong. Or I'd give them all a bollocking, and I'd go, "Apart from you, Matty."
Seriously?
And everybody would look around and go, "Etherington, you so-and-so."
I bet he got absolutely pelted by the other players, though.
And he does still, I think. He does. Yeah. Well, I've heard it. I did play with Matty, but only under 16s with England. But I've heard the story, so I must have heard it from someone. Brilliant.
You're watching All to Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.
I've been with my wife now 45 years. We're childhood sweethearts. We've been together since we were 16 and 15.
Oh, come on, Joe. You're starting to make me cry now. What's up with you? Jeez,
well, that's the intention, Alan, to make you all cry.
Check out the full video now to find out why Joe is Alan's next winner.
And whilst we're having this chat, England are playing Poland as we speak. How do you think Gareth Southgate's done, Tony?
I've been really impressed with Gareth. I think Gareth has done a fantastic job. I think he actually suits the England job. I think his temperament, the way he is, he's well spoken. He's very well organised. I know Steve Holland was at Stoke. We took Steve from Crewe, and he came in and had a short period of time with us. He's a good coach. He's a student of the game. So the two of them, yeah, I like Gareth. Gareth is an honest, genuine person that you can, you look at and you think, if he's going to make mistakes, they'll be honest, genuine mistakes. There'll be no angle to it. And no, I don't know if you know him, Joe, but yeah, I like him.
Yeah, he's you're right. He's got a tough streak to him as well. I played with Gareth when I first got in the England squad, and yeah, good. I bumped into him about 18 months, 2 years ago in Miami. We had dinner, and so I had a few too many drinks, and I'm sitting to him, and I'm like, I'm telling him who we should play for England and all that, and he's gone to me. I was on this rooftop bar, and I'm pissed, and I've gone, I'll give you the team, Gareth. What's this? The team will win you the World Cup. And he goes, go on in. He's put it on me. I go, go on. I've gone, bang, him. And I've said it with such confidence. He said, you just named 12 players. I went, yeah. I said, do that, we'll win the World Cup then. I was so drunk. Yeah, he's a good lad, but he's got there's a tough streak in him as well. He's
and he needs that. Being the England manager, you need to be, that everybody's waiting for you. They build you up, and then as soon as you dip, you lose a couple of games, they're after you like nobody's business. And I actually sat with Graham Taylor when I was at West Brom. I met Graham in a little coffee bar, sat in with Kempy, and he was in there with his wife. And the stick that Graham took when he was England manager was just absolutely horrendous. And speaking to him with his wife there, I still think Graham years and years later still had scars, because he was a great patriot. He was a great Englishman in respect of, he was so proud to be English and so proud to have managed his country. And some of the treatment he got through the press and the media was just absolutely horrendous, really. And it can, it can stain you for the rest of your life. And goodness knows, we never managed, and I haven't, or Graham didn't manage with social media. And I've only caught the back end of it. And I can't get on it. I don't understand it. I don't know what it's about. The problems I've had with players, if players have come in and mentioned it, I've always said, what are you doing on it? If you all these people are saying stuff about you, why? In my opinion, they're a bunch of herberts anyway. So, if you're taking notice of them, then you need shooting. It's not your close friends. It's not your family. It's not people you know. It's people outside that your circle of friends, and they shouldn't be able to affect you.
Absolutely spot on as well, Tony. Couldn't agree more, mate. And going back to England, Joe, what do you make of the two defensive midfielders Gareth's playing at the moment?
I just think it's something he's going to for these few games. I don't think Gareth settled on a team. Looking at it. And I'm looking at, you've got Stones and Maguire, haven't you? Yeah. In there. I think the rest, Rice maybe has established himself. I don't know how Henderson. I just think, certainly in attacking Harry Kane, obviously, but everyone else, it's up for the grabs, isn't it? Like, there's so many of them performing. It's a manager's dream. Everyone he plays is doing a job, whether it be Foden, Sterling, Grealish when he come in and played, Rice, Mount's been outstanding. We've got about 19 right backs who are world class. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a great problem to have.
Absolutely, and obviously you're a proud Welshman.
Yes.
Great result against Czech Republic.
Great result
the other night. Yeah. Are you confident Wales go to the World Cup?
Well, I think Page has done a smashing job. Obviously, Ryan's not there at the moment, and we hope that situation is resolved as quickly as possible. But Page has done a great job. You have a look at the results he's got previous and the last two games as well. And I watched them against Belgium, and with a little bit more, they're a little bit weak on experience. It was only Gareth the other night who had the experience. They're missing Ramsey, Allen, and people of that ilk who can give them that experience in the bigger games. I think and it looks as though it might go to the Belgium game, and that's the last game in Cardiff. I think if they play that game, and it could be the winner takes all. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Oh, you can get Wales at 9-4 to qualify for the World Cup with Coral.
Yeah, just a quick one, because we've got to move on to the predictions. Gareth Bale says he's going back to Real Madrid. Is he completely wasting his time doing that, going back to Real Madrid?
I think he has to say it. I think he has to. That's mother club, and I think he has to say he's going to go back.
Do you think he will?
Personally, I think Gareth is playing the game. That's what I think. I think he's playing a game. He knows that he can't say he doesn't want to go back. He's under contract. He's got, what is it, another year left there. Will he see it out? Only time will tell. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure he will.
I love Gareth Bale.
Yeah,
I
me too.
absolutely my back end when he had that emerging season was one of my last seasons in the Premier League, and he played it. He was stunning against when I was back at West Ham. For me, if I'm Gareth Bale, I'm gonna go right. Go somewhere for your family. Make a family decision now. You know what I mean? Listen, he's have all the money in the world. He looks like he loves football.
Yeah.
Come and play football, whether it be at Tottenham or wherever, you know, or go to Miami. He's a genius. The greatest British export. He's won 4 Champions Leagues, scored one of the greatest goals of the fight. He's been an unbelievable export for the game for Britain and Wales, and I just want to see him enjoy his football. I don't like seeing him on the bench. I don't like seeing him on the bench. He needs to play. We need to see him.
It's disgraceful how he gets treated out there. It's like you said, 4 Champions League. It's like, and he's just, I can't believe how badly he's treated.
Yeah, for me, I can't respect a club like Real Madrid for the way they treat players like that, you know, for what they've done for them. And it's not just Gareth Bale. You've seen it with other players over the years. I don't know what's going on there. You know, listen, I'm never going to manage Real Madrid, so it don't matter. So I'll say what I want.
Say what you want.
But yeah. Listen, I'm not having them.
I got to go careful, Joe, just in case they come in for me.
True, mate. Well, you've got the sporting director role. You like that one?
Tony, imagine you out there just calling them all Herberts.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Ronaldo,
as long as it was in English.
Right, love it. We've got to move on to predictions.
Right.
Games at the weekend. Tone, we'll start with you. Villa, Fulham.
I don't think, if Grealish is fit, I'll go Villa. If he's not, then it's a closer game. Fulham could get a draw or a win.
Do you think Fulham will stay up?
No. I think the bottom 3 are the bottom 3.
Right, really? Okay.
Right. Joe, Villa, Fulham. Who are you going for?
Again, I think Jack's back. I'm going to bet with me heart here. I'm going to go Fulham with Scotty being my pal. And they need to start winning now, don't they? You can get 11-10 for Fulham to be relegated with Coral. So, I'm going to go Fulham.
Right. Arsenal versus Liverpool. Tony.
Liverpool.
What? Away?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Joe?
Liverpool. I just think, I just watched Arsenal last few weeks. I've watched them I just think they're so bitty. I think Liverpool, without Champions League quarterfinals and they've got a route to the final now. I think it'll engage the players' minds because they're great players, you know. So I fancy Liverpool's going a little run now.
Do you think Liverpool will get top 4, guys?
No,
not sure.
I don't, sure. But I think I think they're going to go to the Champions League final. At least the semis. At least the semis.
I'm going to call it now. I'm going to call it now. Chelsea are going to win it.
I hope you're right, Tubes. I hope you're right. As good a chance as any.
Absolutely. And the final one, Leicester versus Man City. Tony.
Man City.
Joe.
I think Brendan's done a fabulous job there, but Man City.
Yeah. I'd say with you. I think Brendan's done a great job. I'm going to go with a draw, and just to make it interesting. I think I'm running away with the predictions, and I Tubes against the guests. You got the scores there?
I haven't been given the scores now. After ask Big Tom D when he comes back next week.
I'm useless. I'm useless at predictions, so I'm giving it to you, Joe, before they even kick off, mate.
But I do know James Collins beat you last week.
Oh God, did he?
Oh, you had Ginge on, did you?
Yeah, mate. Tony's a Welshman. He's telling us about this lovely pub on the halfway house near Swansea, where he said. Johnny
he never
Arsene,
got past it, did he?
Yeah, he said Johnny Arsene took. he said they went there and John Arsene took Ben Thatcher there on one trip. He said you put your name in a pot doesn't it? Right? And then someone picks out the 2 names in the pot, and you've got to go out and have a punch up. I'm thinking, that's not a boozer I want to go to. Do not bring me there. I'll be putting, put my name in. Cyril. Cyril. There's no chance.
And on that note, Tony Pulis, thank you so much.
Legend. Thank you, Tony.
How are England getting on anyway? Let us know. How are they
How
going?
are England, boys? Of course we are.
Delap. Oh, well.
My favourites for the Euros. Come on.
Come on.
Come on,
Anyway,
boys.
cheers, lads.
Thank you,
very
Tony.
much. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
That was fun, wasn't it, Joe? What a top bloke.
Tony Pulis, mate, legend. What, you could have picked his brain all night. I just felt like I was asking him questions, which for my brain, when the time comes for me to step into management, wisdom, knowledge, and that story. I think the story about Harry Redknapp and him getting on the road,
Rothman's book.
Rothman's book. Looking at all them games, like people see these characters and they're like, they just think, they got there. There's so much work that goes into it, like to get to that level. I want to throw something in here, Troops, and I don't want to mess this up, right? But someone says something, Picasso, right? The artist, At the end of his life, he needed a few quid. So people were coming up to him and he was just sketching something for 2 minutes, signing it and give it to him. And a woman said to him, well, that's rubbish. It just took you 2 minutes to do that. He went, but it didn't take me 2 minutes. It took me a lifetime.
That's
I'm saying, it's a lifetime of work. I like it. I'm just dropping bombs every now and then.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. But did you like my performance today though? Did I do you proud, Gaffer?
You're coming in the dressing room now. I'm giving you a big hug. I'm saying go and enjoy yourself tonight. Kingston, what was that nightclub you used to go to?
Oceanas.
Get yourself down there. 2 for 1. Enjoy yourself. You've done a great job. You're in the team next Saturday.
Yeah. So you're looking forward to Tom D coming back next week, yeah?
Mate, we need to get all of you. We need to grow this pod. This could be one of them like Zoom things you see where there's like loads of people just piling in.
Mate,
it's craziness. I love it.
Nah, but Gaffer, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely loved it. And everyone, thanks for listening. And you've been listening to All to Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral. See you later.
You've been watching All to Play For, brought to you by Joe and Coral.